Boyhood, Richard Linklater. I can't separate Boyhood from my relationship with Richard Linklater. You know, I mean, he had this idea that how phony most movies about coming-of-age movies were because they happen in one moment, whereas literature, you can tell the whole story of somebody's childhood. It's much easier to cover time, but because actors age, you either have to hire different actors, which kind of breaks the spell, or you have to pretend like that a person's life was changed in one moment, as opposed to what Boyhood is about, is this accumulation of moments that come to feel like one thing, called your youth. It's the one time of our lives, in America anyway, we're all in the same grid, first grade through 12th grade. We all kind of know where, you know, when you're in 8th grade, you know where you're going to be in 3 years. You're going to be in 11th grade. It's an interesting architecture for a movie. And I remember him kind of telling me the idea, he wanted me to do a portrait of fatherhood, you know, and to really use myself and my experiences and as a child of divorce, and I had a marriage that was breaking up, to write about that and help him ride shotgun with him when he did this huge, huge adventure of trying to make a movie over 12 years. And it's the most incredible idea I'd ever heard. I remember as soon as he said, I was like, oh, wow, man, let's do it. But of course, you're worried, who was ever going to give you money to make a movie that is going to take, they're not going to get return on for 13 years. And you can't even sign any contracts because, you know, it's not legal to sign a contract for more than 7 years. So the whole thing was a handshake deal. I didn't think that we would finish the movie for 5 or 6 years. I hoped we did, but it wasn't until we were 7 or 8 years into it, I was like, you know what, we're going to finish this thing. Gattaca, Andrew Nichols' first film. Yeah, I fell in love on that set, and, you know, Uma got pregnant and had Maya. And that's a great, great time in my life.
Maya looks exactly like the both of you. It's incredible.
Well, you know, people can say that, but you know, all children look a lot like their parents. They act like because their parents are movie actors, she's somehow different than any other human being in the planet. Most people look a lot like their mom and dad. Gattaca is a meticulously designed film. The costumes are incredible, the art direction is incredible, and it's difficult to do a futuristic movie without a lot of money. We really had to design a world, and Andrew was brilliant. You know, he got 50s cars and Frank Lloyd Wright buildings, and he just made this whole hodgepodge of design influences that was beautiful, and the writing, of course, was phenomenal. I've done 2 really good science fiction, Gattaca and Predestination. Predestination is a movie that many people haven't seen, but it's one I'm really proud of. The guys who made that movie, the Spirig brothers, are big Gattaca fans. And so I think that's why they wanted me to be in it, is Predestination owes, from a design point of view, it owes some ideas to Gattaca. Predestination, my second film with the Spirig brothers. My favorite Predestination story is that the other day I had a cop pull me over. And I was like, what is it? He goes, look, I'm sorry to pull you over, but I gotta know. Predestination. I watched it twice. What happened? and he's like, are they? And I was like, they are. And he's like, wow, thank you. I love that movie. I love science fiction. That's based on a Robert Heinlein short story. Sarah Snook gives one of my favorite performances I've ever been party to, you know. People don't really talk about acting. You know, if you make an indie movie, an art film, people talk about the acting, but when the acting disappears inside a genre film, it gets lost because people get, the movie works and you get lost in the world and you just believe the character. But Sarah Snook gives one, she plays a man, she plays a woman, she plays in between, she plays one of the, just an amazing performance that, that also serves a science fiction plot. Great Expectations, Alfonso Cuarón's first American movie. He's gone on to be one of the great directors of his generation, and I feel proud that I knew that the second I met him. We met at a diner in Chelsea. He wanted me to do Great Expectations. I had no desire to do that movie. You know, that whole novel is about class, and I really felt that if you were going to make a movie about class in America, that Pip, my character, should be Latino or African American. He should be, you know, a person of color. But Alfonso completely disagreed, and he loved Before Sunrise, and he wanted me to play the part, and he was completely compelling. An amazing artist. Just the way he talked about movies was so exciting. De Niro is, you know, one of a handful of first ballot Hall of Famers that I've ever come in contact with. He's just one of the greatest people of my profession, and he was the top. And then, in the last 20 years, he's gone on to be one of the greatest comics of his generation. I just admire him so much, you know, and he's a no bullshit guy. I learned a lot working with him simply because I was still very young and I was waiting for people to give me permission to do the work I wanted to do. Gwyneth and I were friends before that started, and we're kind of waiting for directors to give us permission to do great work. And De Niro just comes in and does it. You know, he's in charge of his own work. I learned a lot. Ultimately, like I said, they didn't really... Alfonso was trying to do something new with it. We all just goofed around trying to make a story that spoke to us. People like that movie now, and they liked it when it came out, but it came out a couple weeks after Titanic. And so nobody gave a shit about anything but Titanic for about 9 months after Titanic came out. Particularly Another Romance, you know, that didn't involve a giant ship sinking and the most incredible effects of all time, and Leo and Kate and James Cameron. So we were kind of lost in the, what do you call it, the aftershock of Titanic. Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, directed by Sidney Lumet. Sidney Lumet's last film, he was 83. Another, you know, I've worked with a handful of genuine card-carrying masters from the filmmaking department, but Sidney, I mean, I was being directed by a guy who directed Marlon Brando in one of his greatest performances in a black and white movie written by Tennessee Williams. And Henry Fonda's greatest part in 12 Angry Men, you know. Al Pacino, he directed Al Pacino in Serpico and Dog Day Afternoon. But it wasn't just like some doddering old dude. You know, he was on fire. He was not going to let this opportunity go by. He grabbed it by the hair. If you see that movie, it's a young man's movie. I mean, it's angry and blistering and surprising and strange, and it's not the work of somebody phoning anything in.
Was there any idea that it would be his last movie or anything like that?
I remember sitting on an airplane with him. We were going to the Toronto Film Festival. And he said to me, he said, you know, if we told everybody I was dying, I'd win the Oscar for this picture. That's how dumb the Oscars are, he said. They just need a narrative, you know? And I remember thinking there, does he mean that he's sick? So you don't let yourself think those thoughts when you're sitting with him. I mean, you know, you just don't want to think about if it's his last film. It seems like bad luck or something like that. But it's not like it was a surprise that could have happened.